Welcome to Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, Steven Young of Rotor Grinders, better known as Stevie TPFL. And this week, we're talking bets for the Dollar Tree 301 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway here on Running Hot. Last weekend at Richmond, Joey Logano. The summer of Logano continues. He was able to hold off a hard-charging Chase Briscoe in a late race battle to take home the Cookout 400. Joey Logano earns his second victory of the 2026 season, both during the last few months stretch. So, like I said, summer of Logano is on, Stevie. Chase Briscoe led a race high 171 laps, and he finished second. Meanwhile, Austin Cindric finished third, and he actually was number one in my race flags, number one in median green flag speed. He was 80-1 when I bet him, and unfortunately he couldn't pull it off, but we did hit that top 10 at plus 220. For those of you that saw me track him in the Action app after practice and qualifying, so loved that one. Stevie, what was your thoughts on Richmond?
I thought it was great. A lot of people complaining for no reason. It was a really good race. I mean, yeah, we didn't wreck a bunch of cars, but that's not what racing is. I mean, we saw passing, we saw comers and goers, we saw three different drivers lead over 85 laps. Yeah, I mean, one of the best cars won. Chase Briscoe was one of the best cars. You mentioned Austin Cindric. He was fast all day. Ryan Blaney continued to have just issues with fast race cars. I mean, Josh Berry, we knew the cars we talked about a month ago that said, hey, this stretch that's coming up for JGR and Penske, and it's just that stretch. This is the stretch that we expect Joey Logano and Austin Cindric and these guys and Josh Berry. I mean, I think the biggest disappointment was probably RFK. I mean, they kind of struggled in a racetrack that they've had a lot of success at recently. Austin Dillon got off strategy a couple times, but outside of that, it was a really good race. I loved it. It was one of my favorite Richmond races. You don't need a ton of cautions and a ton of stuff to happen to enjoy the race. I mean, the actual product of racing was great. Oh, but only 11 cars finished on the lead lap. Okay. Some of them had really bad pit strategies and didn't finish on the lead lap, and untimely cautions came out. That is racing. The racing product that was given to us at Richmond, I would watch 36 of those a year. It was just such a good race. And I don't know, I went on a little rant. I try not to go on rants on X anymore, but I went on a little rant because just people complaining for no reason. It was a really good short track race, and we haven't had a lot of those with the next gen era car. And I think that Richmond, with the fall off, with the tire that they're bringing, with the extra horsepower, with the lower downforce, it was just a really good race.
I 1,000,000% agree with you. I was glued to the TV. I thought it was a fantastic race. And there was a lot of things going on too, with different strategies, different tire strategies, Hail Mary strategies, like Shane Van Gisbergen pulled off and was able to do it, and ended up finishing 14th, I believe it was, which was just off the lead lap. But the Hail Mary strategy got him on the lead lap to only lose it right at the very end of the race. And I mean, without that Hail Mary strategy, he's a 25th place car probably on speed. He was not good. He was below 50th percentile in my flags metric, but he ends up pulling off a 14th place finish, which is fantastic because being there on the playoff bubble, the Chase bubble, I mean, he was able to gap himself to Ryan Preece, or at least maintain the gap to Ryan Preece by finishing ahead of him. He might have given up a couple stage points there, but basically held serve, which is what he needed to do with 3 races left, and now 2 races left in the regular season. So I thought that was very intriguing. We saw, like you said, different strategies. We saw comers and goers, right? Ryan Blaney was dominant at the start of the race and then just totally faded at the end. So really good race. And, Chase Briscoe might have deserved that win, but honestly, I thought Austin Cindric deserved the win. To me, he was the best car. If you watched him come out of the pits late, he was 10 seconds back and he closed the gap to 7 seconds. His pit crew cost him a combined 9 or 10 seconds on those last 2 pit stops. Just unbelievable, because he lost by 7 seconds. So, but yeah, you could have said any of the 3 of Logano, Briscoe, or Austin Cindric deserved to win. They were the clear top three, and any order of those three finishing 1, 2, 3 was great. And Hamlin finishing fourth as well. He was a clear top four mixed in there as well. So Denny Hamlin's pit crew, with the jack issues, also kind of cost him maybe a little bit of track position. Not sure he would have finished better than fourth anyway, especially if Cindric's pit crew didn't mess up so much. But I thought it was a great race. And yeah, one other thing I wanted to mention about that race, Hendrick Motorsports seemed to have their best short flat race of the season. When you look at the team as a whole, all four cars in the top 10, and Chase Elliott coming out, I think it was seventh in speed as the top Hendrick Motorsports car behind those four that we mentioned as the top four, and then Ryan Blaney in fifth. So I think that was about right, where Chase Elliott came out around sixth or seventh in speed overall. Best short flat race of the season for Hendrick Motorsports. And I'm guessing it had to do with the high tire wear, because their second best one was Martinsville, which of the short flats is the second highest tire wear that we've been to this year. So maybe there's a little correlation there where a little more wear helps them out at these shorter flats that they've been struggling at. But this weekend, we're at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, another short flat track. It is a 1 mile oval. It is very flat, but it has variable degree banking. It does vary from, I think it's like 2 degrees to 9 degrees. Let me real quick double check on that, to 2 to 7 degrees, right? So down at the bottom, it's 2 degrees, and all the way at the top, it's 7 degrees. So it does give a lot of different lines, because it is kind of wide in the corners. Martinsville, you're pretty much typically running the bottom. New Hampshire, you can move around, get different lines, especially with that variable banking. So yeah, a true 1 mile oval, not like tri-oval shaped like Richmond or Phoenix. It is more like paperclip, quote unquote, shaped, but it's not quite as stretched out as Martinsville. So the turns are kind of wider, radius 180-degree turns. So that is New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Talk about racing at New Hampshire.
Yeah, it's been a really tough racetrack for Chevy. They've only won one race here since 2012, and that was Kevin Harvick in 2016. So it's been a really tough racetrack for Chevy in general. Ford and Toyota have kind of dominated this place over the last 20 years, or last 20 races, not 20 years. I mean, we could probably say the last 20 years too. There was a stretch there where like Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin, we'll say the last 20 races. So, Ryan Blaney really fast here last year. Bell has won, 2 of the next gen races here out of the 4 that we've raced. Truex won the other one. Typically you see this race won from inside the top 10, more than likely inside the top 5. You got to qualify well here to have an opportunity to win. It is a track position type of race, and I don't think that's going to be any different from what we've seen from this car in general. So as far as like just overall win, we do have some drivers that are really good here. I mean, Bell's good here. This has been a really good racetrack for like Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott as far as like finishing well and running well. And you just mentioned that like Hendrick actually ran well. Alex Bowman had a good race last weekend, and like he needs those good races to kind of go into next year. Big announcement with Connor Zilich going there in 2 years. We all kind of saw that one coming, but overall New Hampshire, for me, it's a short flat. It's a track position race. Pit crews are going to matter. The fall off is not going to be like what we saw at Richmond last week. I wish. And then it is a very temperature sensitive racetrack. So this time of the year, I don't think we necessarily have to worry about it being like ultra cold and stuff, but definitely going to be watching the weather a little bit this week to just make sure we're not getting any rain and like cooling down on the racetrack, because it is a very sensitive temperature track.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I will mention is the tire wear, which makes Richmond the hardest comp for it based off my track similarity scores. Richmond on a scale of 0 to 1 in tire wear is basically a 1. And then New Hampshire is right around a 0.3. And we haven't had any 0.3 short flats, but North Wilkesboro was around a 0.1. And Iowa was around a 0.1 and North Wilkesboro was around a 0.5. So it's kind of like the average of those two. So North Wilkesboro and Iowa in terms of tire wear. So it is on the lower end of tire wear. And when I look at comps, so we're going to talk comps here, Stevie, of the short flats, pretty much when you look at the non-Richmond tracks, they all come out the same. Yes, Iowa and North Wilkesboro comp a little better on tire wear, but funny enough, Phoenix and Martinsville actually comp a little bit better on which drivers perform better in flags. So when you kind of average those out, basically Iowa, North Wilkesboro, Phoenix, and Martinsville all come in with similar similarity scores to New Hampshire. Now, not great. I mean, they all make up around 6 to 7% of the total that I'm going into New Hampshire with, since I'm using everything in the next gen era. But you get the idea that this year we have run those 4 races. So if you kind of just average those 4, at least based off my data, you'll get a good idea of who's going to run well at New Hampshire. Of course, factoring in the fact that what's most important is New Hampshire history.
Yeah, New Hampshire definitely comps really good to itself. I like Phoenix. I've always had really good success comping this racetrack to Phoenix. I think Iowa is
Mhm.
still pretty new for us, but I think Iowa's a pretty decent comp. I mean, I'll throw a little bit of Richmond in. Probably Richmond is just you nailed it. Like the tire fall off just makes Richmond kind of Richmond's by itself almost nowadays on the short
Mhm.
flat circuit. So I'll kind of mix a little bit in, but I think we have a really good idea of where everything's at. And you talked about this last week. It is the first week of that new like practice format where there's a 50-minute practice. Teams get 2 sets of tires. Like practice is going to also tell us a lot this week, and qualifying position matters as well.
Yeah, practice and qualifying, of course, are going to be important. And we're definitely going to be referencing practice and qualifying a lot because, look, Stevie, we've just had a bunch of short flat track races in a row, essentially. I mean, we had, let's see, it started off with North Wilkesboro, and then we went to Indy, which is a flat track, but a large one. And then we had Iowa, and then we had Richmond. So, right, 3 of the last 4 races have been short flat tracks, and we're at another one this week. So the market really sharp this week because right when we went to North Wilkesboro, Stevie, we hadn't run a short flat race since Martinsville, which was all the way back in like March, right? So it had been a while since we had run a short flat, and the market had been looking at all these mile and a halves or intermediates or road courses, maybe a couple of drafting tracks mixed in there. And a guy like Joey Logano was not doing well at those tracks. We come to North Wilkesboro, he's completely mispriced. And some of my really good bets at North Wilkesboro were on Joey Logano there to win, and etc. But now that we've been to this track type so much, the market has gotten really sharp on speed. So it looks like you mentioned it. The way we're going to have to differentiate is to see what happens after practice and qualifying. We're back to the 50-minute, 1 group, 2 tires practice. And I think that's how we're going to have to get creative and figure out who's going to be fast on race weekends.
Yeah, man, it is. It is. I don't want to say it's necessarily tough. It is a tough week in the betting market, and it's just because, like, you nailed it. Like we didn't run a short flat since March, and like now we've had so many recently. Like Vegas is kind of sharp this week. Let's call it how it is. Vegas is kind of sharp this week. They know where the speed's going to come from, and there's not a ton of value, and maybe some intangibles happen, but like realistically, like let's practice and qualifying is going to be your number one key this week. And having them combined definitely matters. It'd be really easy. It'd be a lot easier to kind of digest like who is the top end cars and who's not. And, no mixing the practices, which both of us love the mixing the practice because, you can find value in people being under on drivers. But yeah, just realistically, I think that it's a tough week in the market of early week bets.
Yeah, and even then, if we look at like qualifying, right? I mean, not too many really good cars had a bad week. You could say maybe the only ones would be like Carson Hosfar, who DNF'd at Richmond.
Yep.
Brad Keselowski finished 26. But by and large, the good cars that we expect to be good this weekend had good races as well. So they'll be qualifying kind of around each other. So there isn't even going to be a ton of edge in like just early week stuff with qualifying. Obviously maybe a guy like Carson is where you could wait on, but he's also the guy that I'm, as you'll see, maybe showing some value on in the market there. So I don't necessarily mind taking him early week as well. So let's get into those bets, Stevie. As always, we're going to drive through the race stage by stage. We'll give our shorter odds pick in stage 1, then some longer odds bets in stage 2. We're going to drive through stage 3 and end up in victory lane. So we're going to throw the green flag for the Dollar Tree 301 at New Hampshire and fire off for stage 1. All right, stage 1, Stevie, top 10 bet for you. What do you got?
I'm going to go to my short flat track guy, and that's Bubba Wallace here at a top 10 plus 130. He kind of struggled last week. he had like moments of like a lot of speed and then just, kind of fell off a little bit harder than others. And which is kind of odd when it comes to the Toyota camp. And he was really bad here last year. I'm not even going to sit here and try to sugarcoat it. Like his speed was really far down. Like I had him around 20th in speed here last year. But overall, typically very good at short flat tracks, two top tens here in the four next gen races, kind of being overlooked a little bit in the betting market. Again, it's a really tough week to kind of find stuff that I necessarily love. And I'm a huge fan of Bubba on short flats. It's typically one of his best racetracks outside of maybe super speedways, kind of qualifies in the middle of the field. So if he has an above average qualifying, effort with the speed that 2311 has had this year, maybe this number goes down a little bit. So you could potentially wait on this because he is qualifying 18th, but it's right in the middle. Plus 130, right at like value number. I would want this to be like 140, 150 with his speed that he's had here recently. But again, it's a tough week. I like Bubba. I trust Bubba on the short flat tracks, and I think he's going to have some speed. And, we got to talk a little bit about point standings. Like he's in a pretty good spot. He's plus 70 right now, but one bad week here going into Daytona is not what he wants. So I think like Bubba, strategy wise, hey, let's get a top 10 here going into Daytona. Let's lock ourselves almost all but in heading into Daytona, and it would be a good week for him. So, Bubba top 10 plus 130. Again, I think they need a good week here, and I think the focus is going to be on this race more than it's going to be on at Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think it's been a little bit of a rough go for Bubba Wallace, right? In the last 7 races, he has had 4 finishes of 20th or worse. So that's not what they wanted, right? They were sitting close to the top 10 in points before that 7 race stretch, and now they are 14th in points and not exactly on the bubble, right? You mentioned it, like they're not totally safe, but they're comfortable. They're 70 points ahead of the cut line. 2 races, that's usually okay, but we're going to Daytona where you could be the first car out just based off of the big one or any other kind of incident there. So you really want a nice, comfortable week, and Bubba Wallace top 10 would give them that comfortable week. One note, he is plus 155 at DraftKings. So if you have DraftKings, make sure to grab it at plus 155 if you like Bubba Wallace for a top 10. Stevie got him plus 130 at Hard Rock, and I believe he's plus 130 at Canby Books like Bet Rivers as well. So Stevie's stage 1 pick, Bubba Wallace top 10 plus 130. Again, plus 155 at DraftKings if you got it there. For my stage 1 pick, I'm going to another plus 130 bet, but this is not a top 10 bet. It is a matchup, and I'm going to head over to DraftKings as well, and I'm going to take Josh Berry plus 130 over Chase Briscoe. And this is pure track history. And don't get me wrong, Chase Briscoe has been strong here, especially in that 2024 race where the rain kind of came out. It really helped those Stewart-Haas cars. He finished second at New Hampshire that year, but a lot of that had to do with the Stewart-Haas cars coming to life in the rain. But he finished 10th last year. But Josh Berry was a top 3 car in one of those 2 years and a top 5 car in the other year, just in terms of speed. So this is a Josh Berry playground. We just saw him have a great race at Iowa. We just saw him have a great race at Richmond. So, I mean, I have Josh Berry a nominal favorite over Chase Briscoe. My model has him 50.5% to beat Chase Briscoe. So Chase Briscoe beating him 49.5%. So essentially a coin flip, right? And my model gives the nod to Josh Berry ever so slightly on that coin flip. And we're getting plus 130 odds. So that's like a little more than 30 cents of value to the dollar. And I that's just what I like. I'm not saying Chase Briscoe is going to be bad here. I just think they're both going to be good. If they're both going to be good, I give the slight nod to Josh Berry, who has finished 3rd and 2nd in each of his 2 races in the Cup Series at New Hampshire.
Yeah, Josh Berry's been really good here. And we talked about this last week a little bit. Like he's just kind of auditioning for a role in some organization, whether it be Cup, O'Reilly, something for next year. So he's finished top 3 here each of the 2 races that he's run, like you mentioned. Chase Briscoe was awesome last week. Like, let's give him his due diligence because short flats have not been his like bread and butter, but they have been the bread and butter for Josh Berry. He didn't get the finish last week that he probably deserved. Got caught up in, some like strategy and like caution stuff. But yeah, I mean, plus 130, my model is showing slight value to Josh Berry in this one as well. So I will be honest, like early in the week, like right now, I was trying to find something for Barry because I do think he's going to be good this week.
Yeah, I think this is, if you're going to attack Josh Berry, given the current prices in the market, I think this is probably the way to go. I mean, if we look at his outright odds, even though he's finished second and third, I can't take him right now at, 10 or 16 to 1. I would need probably at least a 2 in front of that number to be able to take Josh Berry outright. And that cascades through, right? Like it cascades through the top 3, through the top 5, through the top 10. Right now, Josh Berry's top 10 odds are minus 125 as the best. And I have him at 52.3% to finish inside the top 10, which is basically minus 110. So not even getting enough value there in terms of top 10. So it just kind of cascades through. So this is the way I found to attack Josh Berry by taking him over Chase Briscoe, who, I think the model's a little high on, or I should say the market is a little high on because of his great week at Richmond this past week. But I give the nod to Josh Berry here. So Josh Berry plus 130 over Chase Briscoe at DraftKings is my stage 1 pick. Again, Stevie's stage 1 pick. Bubba Wallace top 10 plus 155 or plus 130, depending on where you get that price. Before we move on to stage 2, don't forget to sign up for Action Pro for real-time pick alerts from experts like Brandon Anderson, Stuckey, and our entire Action Network team. Of course, you can always access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner, myself, and the rest of our predictive analytics team. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and get $20 off the annual price with the promo code POD20. Don't miss out on the best bets at the best prices. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro and use the promo code POD20. That's POD20 to get $20 off a year of Action Pro. Also, if you haven't subscribed to Stevie's NASCAR package at Roto Grinders, we have a special offer for Running Hot listeners. Use the promo code Running Hot. That's all one word, Running Hot, when signing up for $10 off a monthly subscription or $20 off the annual package, where you get access to all of Stevie's content and my practice flags, which again, practice flags we think will be pretty huge this week. So head over to rotogrinders.com, sign up for Stevie's NASCAR package, use promo code Running Hot to get your discount. All right, on to stage 2 here, Stevie. You are going to another Toyota driver. What do you have?
Yeah, again, early in the week, I was trying to find where I'm going to bet Christopher Bell. I'm showing slight value on the top 3 market at plus 160. You could shop this around and you could probably get a little bit better odds. Love Florida sometimes, but I think Bell is going to be a top 3 car. And I think that this is a race that I have circled for Bell every single year as a race that he can win. He's won 2 of the 4 next gen races here. And he ranks first in speed in those 4 races. Last year, he started kind of slower and then was one of the top 5 cars, in the second portion of that race. And with where he's qualifying, I think that he has a really good chance to qualify inside the top 5. And if he qualifies in the top 5, this number is going to be better or worse. So I like Bell. I really debated on betting his outright to win this race. Penske's just so good. Denny Hamlin's so good that it's really hard for me to trust Bell. But if there was a race for him to win to get some momentum heading into the chase, I definitely think this is one of them. And it's just odd that we're talking about Bell not having a win, Kyle Larson not having a win, William Byron not having a win. It's just we're heading into this stretch of we're about to get in the chase, and these guys just don't have any wins. And realistically, Hendrick has 2 wins, and they're both Chase Elliott. And we've seen JGR win a lot this year, but it's been Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin, and Briscoe. It's where's Christopher Bell? So Bell top 3 plus 160. Really good racetrack for him. We talk about him at Phoenix all the time too. This is a week that I think Bell could get the job done.
Yeah, well, honestly, when I think of Christopher Bell, I think of New Hampshire. I really do think this is his best racetrack, if not maybe his second best racetrack when you add Phoenix in there as well. But Christopher Bell just is a monster here at New Hampshire. Even going all the way back to the O'Reilly series back when it was Xfinity, right? He won New Hampshire every single time he raced there. So this is just a pure, in the truck series, right? He finished first and second at New Hampshire. This is Christopher Bell's racetrack. And I would argue Phoenix as well. Those are his 2 best racetracks. So when you come to New Hampshire, you got to think of Christopher Bell. So Stevie's way of getting on Christopher Bell here is with a top 3 finish, plus 160. There's a plus 165 at DraftKings, but it's a few cents if you're able to shop around plus 165 as well. For my stage 2 pick, Stevie, I'm going to go a couple long shots. It's pretty tough to hit long shots at New Hampshire because it's a pretty predictable track, but I think I found two that I like, and they're both top Chevy bets. And I'm going to go with SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, 18-1 top Chevy at Bet365, and Carson Hocevar, 18-1 top Chevy over at DraftKings. And a lot of this is just a Hendrick Motorsports fade, Stevie. When we look, like I said, at the short flat tracks, where Hendrick has struggled the most is at the lower tire wear short flats. If we look at Iowa, the best finishing Chevy at Iowa was it was indeed Ross Chastain and then AJ Allmendinger second, William Byron third among the Chevys, right? So the top Hendrick Motorsports Chevy was third best Chevy, and he only finished in ninth place. Then when we head over to North Wilkesboro, the top Chevy was Shane Van Gisbergen. Daniel Suarez was the second Chevy, and William Byron, finally we get to a Hendrick Motorsports driver, was the third best Chevy once again, with Hocevar one spot right behind him. They finished 12th and 13th. So not good for these Hendrick Motorsports Chevys at these lower tire wear short flats. And like I said, New Hampshire is only a 0.3 on a scale of 0 to 1 in terms of tire wear, with 1 being the highest. And Iowa was a 0.1, and North Wilkesboro is a 0.5. So you got to think they're probably going to have the best car around a 10th place finish. And look, Shane Van Gisbergen finished 5th at North Wilkesboro. He ran really well here at New Hampshire last year until he encountered some problems while running inside the top 10. Carson Hocevar had top 10 speed at New Hampshire last year when we look at flags. So plus I think we're getting a little bit of a Hocevar discount right now just because he's run into a few struggles recently. But I think these two guys at 18-1 are showing enough value given the Hendrick Motorsports struggles that I want to get on them for top Chevy at 18-1. What do you think?
The good thing about Carson Hocevar too, like going out early in qualifying, is he's going to send it. He reminds me so much of Ryan Newman when it comes to qualifying. They just know how to make speed, and I think that we're gonna see him send it here. So not too worried about like where he's qualifying, but I will say I like the SVG call as well. SVG has been surprisingly solid on these short flat tracks, and it's not too surprising for us because I mean road course guys typically run really well on the short flat tracks. Kind of finding a groove and maintaining your stuff. So I don't hate this, and man, Carson Hocevar needs a good week. We talked like mathematically, you want to be in like the top 7 to have a chance to win the championship, and like he keeps just dropping. Like this is a guy that was in the top 7 for a long time, and then just now is not even clinched anymore for a chase spot because of the weeks that he's put together here. So dropped another 3 spots last week. He really needs a good week, and SVG is right on that bubble. He's 50 points ahead of Ryan Preece, I think, is the number that I thought I saw earlier today. He needs a good race here and definitely wants to go into Daytona a little bit more comfortable. So this would be a big week for SVG to go out and put together a really strong race.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, again, SVG, like we talked about with Bubba Wallace, kind of close to that bubble. So really needs a good, strong race here. I think there's going to be a lot of focus on him from Team Trackhouse. The other thing, right, like I said, these guys are 18-1. I have both of them just north of 6%, between 6 and 7% to finish as the top Chevy. And at 6%, you just need plus 1567. So we're getting 18-1. And I have them even a little bit better than that. I have them both closer to like, plus 14 something as fair odds. So the 18-1 seems really nice. So again, that's 18-1 at Bet365 for SVG. 18-1 at DraftKings for Carson Hocevar as top Chevy. And again, Stevie's stage 2 pick was Christopher Bell for a top 3 finish plus 165. So that'll do it for stage 2. As always, we're going to drive through stage 3, take the checkered flag, and end up in victory lane. And Stevie, we talked about it kind of at the top of the show. Tough week for the market, and we rarely do this where we don't have a victory lane pick. But we got to be honest with our listeners and our viewers. Sometimes there's just not enough value in the market. We don't want to force bets. We don't even want to force leans because leans are things we're not like all that confident in. So we don't have a victory lane pick this week, do we?
No, I mean, listen, we have the respect in the industry for a reason. Like, I'm just being blunt and honest. I'm not being cocky. Like, we have the respect in the industry for a reason because we're always pretty straightforward. And, we hit Josh Berry for a top 10 last week in victory lane, and it worked out great. And it's just one of those things where there's just not a ton of value. And like Nick said, we don't want to force anything on our listeners. So we gave out what we do like to start the week. And, you and I will definitely have some stuff probably after practice and qualifying. Action app for you, the NASCAR package that you talked about for me for my betting stuff. And I mean, that's just where we're at. We'll definitely have a victory lane pick that we like next week at Daytona. We always tend to find some value early in the week at Daytona. So we like to be honest, and that's how being transparent and honest is the best way to, stay alive in this industry. And you and I have been doing this for 10 plus years for a reason.
Absolutely. Yeah. You and I have known each other since 2015 when DFS started, NASCAR DFS started over at DraftKings and FanDuel. And for more than a decade now, you and I have always had each other's respect, but also the industry's respect just of doing this. And look, it's a great week to go kind of light, at least early in the week, because we know we're probably going to go pretty heavy next week at Daytona and fire a bunch of bets, even if they're long shots. And, firing a bunch of long shots always means there's a chance of just hitting absolutely nothing. So, you don't want to blow some extra bankroll this week trying to force in bets when we know we're probably going to be splashing around a little bit on some long shot odds next week. So I think this is an even better week to take it a little bit light until we've seen practice and qualifying. Like Stevie said, his Roto-Grinders package, he'll have his bets in there. My practice flags will be in there. Also, my practice flags will be up at actionnetwork.com, of course, with the pro. So make sure to sign up for Action Pro if you want it over on that side. And of course, we'll be tracking bets wherever we do, Stevie and Roto-Grinders and me over in the Action app. So make sure to tune into all those things to get our weekend bets after practice and qualifying. But that is going to do it for us. So thank you for listening to the Dollar Tree 301 episode of Running Hot, Action Network's Motorsports Betting Podcast. If you'd like to tail some of the bets we discussed today, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionnetwork.com/bet. Now, we'll be back next week to talk bets for the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona International Speedway. On behalf of my co-host, Steven Young, thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week on Running Hot from Action Network.